Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Tuesday and the patch notes have been posted, which means it's time for us to talk through the top 5 changes of patch 14.6. I'll let you guys know what the biggest changes were on this week's patch and what you can be looking forward to in the coming weeks. 14.6 has a ton of important changes for us to talk through on today's video, so let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and hop right into things, starting off with the number 5 change, the changes to epic items. Now, this is a very long-winded explanation here, but let me give you the skinny on this. These changes are being made for 2 main reasons. First, Riot want to make lanes feel less over after a single kill or gank by reducing the power of early item spikes, such as the one gained from getting an early Caulfield's Warhammer or a Fiendish Codex or Serrated Dirk. Secondly, Riot want to make buying individually expensive components, for example Blasting Wand or BF Sword, individual items that cost a lot, more powerful than buying an epic item out of components, because you had to wait longer for those items and couldn't piecemeal buy it, right? Like, you had to wait a full 1,300 gold for a BF sword. Meanwhile, Serrated Dirk costs the same, but you can build 2 long swords in the meantime to offset the cost, so it doesn't feel as bad building it, and you had like roughly the same power level, which doesn't make a lot of sense when you had to wait so long for a big power spike in the form of a BF sword. As a result, these changes are general nerfs to some core epic items to make them weaker overall in order to reduce their early power in case you're able to grab one of these early on. There are also a couple of small changes here to Glacial Buckler and Steel Sigil, just cleaning up their build paths generally, as well as a change to Spectral Shroud, Spectre's Cowl, just to remove its unique passive because its completed items didn't have that passive, so why does the epic item have that? It didn't make any sense to gain a passive and then lose it. These changes are small, but should make snowballing less possible off of a single kill or gank, and I'm generally a fan of this direction, but we'll see how this shapes up overall. I do feel like a lot of players have learned by the component versions first, so we'll see where this ends up with things overall. The number 4 change on this week's patch are the changes to Briar. Yes, longtime fans of the channel know what I'm about to say, so I'll skip most of the preamble, but Briar is being nerfed yet again. This time Briar is being nerfed because she is running roughshod over low skill play, while she's being actually too weak in high skill play. As a result, Riot are trying to find a way to give her power in high level, while nerfing her low level power because she's just not really a champion that you can outplay as easily in low level, and she just has so many stats that it's hard for players to deal with her, even if they know what the counterplay is. That said, though, Riot are just objectively nerfing Briar even in higher elos. The ultimate nerf damage here is like, it hurts higher elos because they more accurately hit Rs, so you just nerfed her for high elo. The W changes here are nerfs. W1 isn't nerfed as badly as W2, but she is still getting her bread and butter ability hit pretty hard, and as compensation, she's getting a buff to her Q where she can now ward hop with her Q, which is fine, I guess. I don't think it's a huge deal for Briar in the same vein that it is with like Lee Sin and Jax, but sure, okay, whatever. I guess it is a high-skewed nerf, so we'll see how this ends up, or a high-skilled buff, so we'll see how this ends up playing out for Briar. Generally, she is weaker, but I think this is hardly likely to hit Riot's goals, just because Briar isn't designed well enough to be so discreetly balanced. She'll either be playable, and therefore too playable automatically, or unplayably weak. There is no in-between for this champion, but we'll see where these nerfs put her. I've been wrong about these kinds of changes before. Moving on to the number 3 changes on this week's patch, we're talking about Galio. Riot are finally taking a big swing at Galio's balance by trying to make him less bursty while incentivizing a more tanky playstyle without really fully making Galio a true tank, more of an AP bruiser type champion that is incentivized to build things like Rod of Ages. This is mostly coming with nerfs, admittedly, but there are a couple of small targeted buffs to help make their changes stick. These buffs are mostly revolving around Galio's passive. The damage has gone down, but now he has a cooldown reduction effect by hitting enemy champions or epic monsters with abilities. This means that if you E somebody, then into a Colossal Smash, into a WQ, then Colossal Smash's cooldown is fully reset, so you can use it again, and just in general makes Galio more incentivized to brawl. A Colossal Smash also has 40% attack speed while his passive is available, so it should feel a little bit smoother to use. There's also a health ratio now on W, so if you are building bonus health, W will make you a much more tanky when you channel it. However, all of Galio's buttons are losing damage. His Q, his W, and his E have all lost base damage, meaning that he has to still build AP in order to deal any degree of damage. I think the changes here are interesting directionally, and I do like Galio as a more tanky champion, but I think requiring him to build the damage to deal damage just feels wrong. Make him AP Malphite. Don't make him an awkwardly tanky burst mage brawler guy. Like, make him a champion that builds MR and becomes invincible to magic damage and still can kill you. I think that's what I would want to see Galio, but I like the direction of these changes overall. We'll see if Riot continue to shift him over time. The number 2 change on this week's patch are the changes to Karma. Right now, Karma is a reasonably powerful support, but she is exceptionally strong at mid lane, primarily because her ultimate doesn't have a real cooldown. She has such easy access to ultimate ability haste, so she doesn't actually pay an opportunity cost for using an ultimate ability without payoff, right? Like, if you throw out an RQ and miss, like, you're like, oh, well, I'll just do it again in 5 seconds once I reset the cooldown and just get to do it again, right? Like, that's not really what Riot want for the champion. As a result, they're trying to nerf down mid lane Karma while giving her support build some buffs to try and keep the power level of the support build roughly equivalent to where it was before, but I think she's generally getting nerfed overall. Her mid lane nerfs include a hit to her passive's ult refund mechanic. She gets less of a cooldown off of it, or off of the refund on the passive, an increase on her ultimate's cooldown overall, and a scaling Q mana cost hit, and a hit to her mana per level. The Q hit here is particularly nasty for AP Karma. It's a first max, but she'll get so many fewer Qs now because the scaling mana cost will make it so that she just can't really keep queuing at the same rate, especially because her mana growth has gone down as well. So AP Karma's bread and butter ability is basically non-existent now. Meanwhile, at support, she'll enjoy better mana regeneration, as well as a slightly stronger RE shield. I think these changes are generally a power down to Karma. Mid lane Karma is getting kneecapped, but support Karma is getting a fairly sizable hit as well, which is pretty disappointing overall. I think mid lane Karma is almost assuredly going to fall from prevalence, but support Karma is also fairly weak on this patch as a result, and that's a little sad, but I guess it is what it needs to be in order to get AP Karma out of the mid lane. Finally, the number 1 change on this week's patch are the changes to Smolder. That's right, the little guy is finally gone over the edge. He has an incredibly high presence in pro play and an increasingly high ban rate in casual, which means he is due for some nerfs. Now, these changes look relatively light, but they are very well targeted, I think. All good places for Riot to hit him. The scaling execute on his Q's final evolution was pretty bonkers. I don't think that was fair at all. So keeping it at a normalized value, that's still weaker, by the way, than what he had prior to the scaling changes, is totally fair. They also made it only work off of his damage, which means that he won't be a pentakill machine anymore. He has to actually be getting the Q on you before killing you, as opposed to just like arbitrarily queuing you and then letting his allies get you low enough for the execute to happen, which I think is a huge advantage for playing with Smolder more than playing against him. His W is also getting a size tap down. This is nice. It'll be easier to dodge and more reliably match up with the hitbox. And E having less movement speed makes his mobility much less reliable in both the offensive and defensive use cases. If he's using it defensively, he can't run as far because there isn't as much movement speed, which means he doesn't move as far in general, which does limit the overall utility of this move. And he has to play closer to the action in order to use it aggressively, which means then he's closer, which means if he gets engaged upon, he doesn't run away as far, right? Like, there are a lot of things that I think the movement speed reduction works for him on as far as the E-nerfs go. I am unsure if these will be enough. He's a very popular champion and kept a ton of his power, but I like the direction that they've gone with, and I hope that these changes will slide Smolder smoothly into a scaling fantasy. But that is going to be it for me today, guys. Those are the top 5 changes of patch 14.6. Let me know what your favorite changes on the patch were down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days like today as well. But if you don't want to keep track of my schedule, go ahead and hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever one of my videos goes live. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.